Welcome to all. Today we are going to start new chapter, that is the first one of class 12th physics. What we include in this online lecture series, we will include the syllabus of Cbse, ISC and all state boards, and also JEE Mains and NEET preparations. There would be separate sections of JEE Advanced and NEET. Let us begin our first topic, that is electrostatics. So what is the electrostatic? What about this? So electrostatics, as the name suggests, that electrostatics, when the charge is at rest. So you are dealing with when charge at rest. So the properties which are related to this charge which is at rest. So it means that the forces which are connecting with the static charges, the electric fields and the potentials, we are dealing with these ones. So let us begin our the first one, that is electric charge. Two kinds of electric charges. Nature has given everything has an antiparticles. In earlier times, it is thought that there is only the positive charges, but we know that everything has some antiparticles, so there should be some negative of that positive charges. It means that there should be negative charge also. So in nature, in every object has two types of the charges. One is a positive charge and second one is a negative charge. So since we know that every object made of atoms, so atoms has, if the atom is electrically neutral, it has equal number of positive charges and equal number of negative charges. Let us go some examples of helium. Suppose we have an helium atoms. So we know that in helium atom, atomic numbers, it has 2 and atomic mass is 4. So we have, that number of protons, it has the protons 2, it has protons 2 and electron also 2. So since we know that protons has positive charges and electrons and negative charges, so if you add all these two charges, protons plus charge on the electrons, we will get to net charge is 0. It means that an atoms which is electrically neutral, is not given charges, we have not snatched the electrons from the orbiting electrons, the total charge on an atoms will be 0. So initially an object has, every object has charges 0. So if the charges is transferred, if you given the charges from outside, so when you rubbing two objects, then the charges would transfer. And the second one, by conductions we can also transfer the charges. One example, let us go for rubbing of two objects. Let us suppose if I rub silk cloth we are rubbing silk cloth with the glass rod, what would happen? So if I take glass rod rubbing with the silk cloth, so there are some charge transfers. Initially, before the rubbing, glass rod and silk cloth are neutrals. Neutral means the total charges on these two objects equal to 0. So when you rubbings, after rubbings, some charges transfer from glass to silk cloth. So what would happen then? So if I observe, if I experimentally check whether the glass rod and silk cloth have the charges and what type of the charges. So we see that glass rod has got the positive charge. It got positive charge, and silk got negative charges. So how this charges transferred from glass rod to silk cloth? Since we know that in an object, in any atoms, so positive charges is bound with the nucleus. You cannot practically snatch the protons from the nucleus. only an orbiting electron. We can transfer the orbiting electrons easily by giving some energy from the outside. If you give some energy to this electron from outside, that electrons will leave the pull, the attraction of the nucleus. So that's what when we have rubbed glass rod with the silk cloth, the positive charge transfer from, the negative charge transfer from glass rod to the silk cloth. That's why negative charge, that means the electron transfer. That's why glass rod getting positive charges and silk getting negative charge, because since initially they all are neutral. This is one example. Now another example, if I take a plastic, if I take a plastic object and if I rub this with the woolen, before rubbing woolen cloth, we have taken these two objects, rubbing. When we rubbing these two, there is some charge transfers. Initially, before that, before the rubbing, we have no charges, we have no positive, we have no positive and negative charges. After rubbing, we have some charges. Woolen gate, here in that case, some electron is transfers from woolen to plastic. When electrons that is transferred from woolen cloth to the plastic object, then woolen gets positive charges and plastic object become negative charges. So finally it gets a positive because it has loses some negative charges, and it becomes, because it gaining negative charge, that's why it becomes negative. So this is so this is how we have transferred. We have not produced, we have not created. Everything cannot be created, only we can exchange, we can change, we can transfer. So that's why we have here transferred the electrons from one object to another object. So here, is it possible that positive charges can be transferred also? Yes, it is possible. By conduction we can transfer. By not rubbing, with the help of the rubbing we cannot transfer the positive charges, only we can transfer negative charges. So now how this by the rubbing only electron are transferred. Electron transferred from woolen cloth to the plastic. Why not possible to transfer electrons from here to here? So let us discuss in next topic. Yes, origin of electric charge in fractional electricity. We in earlier examples, when we rubbed glass rod with silk cloth, there is a charge transfer. We know that in these examples, glass rod, and we have rubbed this glass rod with the silk cloth. So at the beginning there is no charges between them. Individually they have no charges. When you rub, some charge transfers. So we know that these two objects made of the atom. So we know that in atom is initially electrically neutral. When you rubbed, okay, nucleus is strongly nuclear. The protons, the positive charge remains in the nucleus, which is strongly bound. You can't practically we cannot withdraw the electron from the nucleus. So only this is possibility that electron can come out from the orbits. So when you give some energy from this orbiting electrons, it will gain kinetic energy and momentum also, and so it can overcome the pull between the positive. There is some attractive force between positive nucleus and orbiting electron. So that pulls that kinetic energy, that extra energy which you have given from the outside, will overcome these pulls between positive and negative charges, known as the Coulomb force. So the electron come out. When the electron is come out, this atom becomes not electrically neutral. It gains some positive charges, because at the beginning it is electrically neutral, but after some timing when electron come out, so there is some loss of negative charges. So that's why net charges becomes on this atom is positive. since we know that every object is silk cloth and glass rod made of the atoms also. So when the glass rod given the electron to the silk cloth, it got positive charges, and silk cloth got negative charge. It got positive and it gets negative charges. So now there is a how the electron not transferred from the silk to the glass. It only possible. Why it is possible only glass rod get the positive charges? Why not the silk cloth? The simple thing is there is a term work function. So there is a yes work function. When you give some minimum energy, okay, so there is different work function. Glass rod and silk rod has different work function. Work function means the minimum energy required to give the electron to come out the pool of the nucleus, known as the work function. So this glass rod has a smaller work function than the silk cloth. So before the electron coming out due to the rubbing between them, coming out from the silk cloth, to electron come out from the glass rod, and these electron transferred from glass to the silk. That's why glass rod becomes positively charged, because its work function is smaller. So the definitions of this work function is the minimum energy required to the electron to overcome the electric pull of nucleus. Known as work function. So that's why this charge is positive and negative is known as fractional electricity, because due to the friction when you're rubbing these two and there is friction between these two objects, and you are sliding between, when you slide between them, you are overcoming the friction for sliding between them. So you have give some energy to these objects, okay. That energy transfers to snatch, that energy transferred to give the kinetic energy to the electron. That's why the electrons get some energy, and it overcome the pull of the nucleus. That's why it come out easily. So so everything so we have not created, we have just transferred some electron from the glass rod to the silk cloth. So this is the concept of fractional electricity. Let us go next topic. We have we can transfers also energy by conduction, by induction. So what about induction? What about conductions through a charge object? Let us begin. Next topic. Now this is our electrostatic conductions. We are to transfer energy by conduction. What means the conduction? Suppose these two are made of the metal conductors. So we have given some charges. Suppose I have given some positive charges to these conductors, and this is electrically neutral. It has a strand, and electrically neutral, initially it has no charges, so it has some charges. So now the distance, this is far from this object. This is object A. This rod is very far, so there is no effect of this positive charges on this one. So at the room temperature, at some temperatures, at every moment This is made of the conductor. Some electrons already come out. ठीक है, already there are electrons which are random moving in this conductor. Later we will study under the electricity. So this is made of I means it is a metal. Metal have free electrons. Free electron easily come out from the orbits. So when you bring this one, okay, when you bring this rod, rod with, this is your rod B, near of this one. So when you bring this rod near rod A, so there we have seen some charges are seen. This is rod B, so it has the positive charges. When you bring this one with rod A, so there are some negative charges appearing nearby of this rod A. So and far off there should be some positive charges. So when we analyze, so it has, you should have to connect these ones, not this is the conductions method. We need the conduction, we have to touch this one. So I have touched this rod. When you touch, by conduction we have to touch to another rod. So some electrons are coming from the far off end of the conductors. They are collected at this point, and far off there is positive charges. So why this happens? So we know that there is a pull of the positive charges, because between negative and positive there is a Coulomb's attractive forces. Due to the pull of this attractive forces, electrons far end of this rod coming nearby of this rod V. So yes, this is electrically neutral. Whatever the charges, if the charges, suppose here is minus 10 coulomb, far end will be plus 10 coulomb, because electrically the rod should be electrically there is some changes. Sorry for earlier statement. Earlier statements are for the inductions. So this is for conductions. So we should have transferred the positive charges. Okay, if this is rod B has the positive charges, the positive charge would transfer from rod B to rod A. Okay, so earlier statements about the induction, we are not dealing with the induction, and it is earlier I thought it is induction. So we are going to start. This is conduction. So in conduction, so we have whatever the charges of rod B, same charges will be transferred to the rod A, because this is by direct contact. This is by direct contact. So charge can be transferred if the metals, if the object are conductors. So the conductors, this is the matter made of the metals. A is also made of the metals. So it has positive charges. The same charges we have transferred to the object A. So this is known by conduction. Conduction means by direct touching, and conductions will possible only if these are made of conductors. Now next topic here would be, we have induction. What about the induction? So induction something different. We can induce, not produce. We can just redistribute the charges between the object. Let us start. So electrostatic induction. What about the induction? So we can transfer charges by direct contact, like in the earlier case. Now it is the inductions. We have not to touch these two rods. Suppose this is a rod, it is far from rod A. At the beginning, we have given some positive charges, and this rod A is made of metals or conductors, electrically neutral. When you bring this, in first case we have bring this rod B nearby of this one. When you bring this rod B near of A, so we have seen that near of rod B, nearby end of the rod A becomes just opposite of the charge. It means the electron are collecting at this end, and positive charges are collecting at this end. So without any touchings, and we have just bring the charge rod near of rod A, and we know that this is made of the metals. Okay, metal has free electrons, so these free electrons are random in motions and every times. So when you bring this positive charge rod nearby of rod A, due to the Coulombic pull, due to the electrostatic pulls between the positive and negative charges, the electrons are coming nearby of rod B. That's why the negative charges are collected at the point at this end, and positive charges remains in the far end, because between positive there would be repelling forces. So due to the repel, positive charge remains far end, and due to the pull of the Coulombic force, negative charges come nearby this one. So that's why by induction we have redistributed charges on conductor A. There is no effect on the charge distribution of rod B. There is loss or gain of charge in B. Since A is electrically neutral, whatever the negative charges comes at this end, the same positive charges will remain there. So at the end also, the net charges on rod A is also 0. So what would happen? What is the case if the charges it only possible that positive charges can induce the charges in another object? No, it is possible. So also if this charge rod has negative charges, it can induce this end with the positive charges. Okay. Suppose we have negative charge on this object. Initially this rod B is far from rod A. There is no effect of this negative charges on this one. This object has this is made of the metals, freely moving electrons. These electrons are random in motions. When we bring this rod, this object which is positively charged nearby of this ones, so the electrons, we know that electrons repels electrons, negative charge repel electrons. So the electrons which remain in these portions will be repelled to the other end. So the electrons got collected in the other end, and positive charges would remain here due to the electrostatic pull. So due to the pull of the electrostatic, positive charges remains nearby of this rod B, and electrons got other far ends. So due to the electrostatic repelling, between negative there would be repelling force, and between negative plus there would be pulling forces. So in this way we can induce any type of charges in an electrically neutrals. So this is known as electrostatic induction. So we have redistributed, not transferred the charges from rod B to rod A.